Hello and welcome back to a series of lectures on floriculture. We have so far been talking about plants that are cultivated in the field as well as those that are cultivated in pots. Today we will talk about a plant which can be cultivated both in the field as well as in the pots. It is popularly known as carnation and botanically it is Dianthus caryophyllus. This plant has a potential to adapt to essentially temperate conditions, and sometimes it can grow even at alpine areas where during winter as well as during summer the temperatures are much below what we see ordinarily at the lower altitudes. Generally, this plant is considered to be a plant which has a potential to not only survive under different conditions of the weather as well as the habitat, but also maintain its productivity as well as adaptability. This plant is among the oldest ornamental plants, and it has a value not only in terms of domesticated ornamentals but also can be used as a cut flower for trading. This is primarily because this flower has an age which sometimes can be as long as 1 month, and during storage it can also survive from a minimum of 7 days to around 15 days. This plant has an adaptability to those areas where soil has a much better organic component as well as a much better drainage potential. Generally, this plant has two important characters. One, wherein its underground portion, that is actually the rhizomatous portion, survives for much longer duration, while as the apical portion, which is producing the flowers as well as the foliage, can sometimes be seen to show the depletion. Generally, this plant, as you can see here, shows a productive potential wherein the flowers are borne apically, and these flowers in the form of an inflorescence are produced in groups of 3 to 5. Generally, production of these flowers is sustained by the plant provided it is grown under sunny conditions and wherein the soil as such is actually having a potential to sustain the productive potential of the plants. Generally, this plant is considered to be a better field ornamental in relation to what we see at the age of a pot ornamental. However, under temperate conditions where it is commercially cultivated, it has been seen to survive in both field as well as in the pots. Now, generally, the main axis of the plant, as you can see here, is showing a division into nodes and internodes, and at the apical portions, again you can see here, it produces only the ornamental part, that is the flowers. Under field conditions, once we want to domesticate it, there are two different ways. One, wherein we use the seeds for propagation, and second, wherein we use the vegetative methods of propagation. Generally, it has been seen that vegetative means are much more suitable than the seed propagation is. This is primarily based on the fact that seeds, even though having tremendous viability and vigor, do not have a pattern of production as compared to the vegetative means of propagation. However, in both cases, the propagation is carried out in the months of April or May, and the sustenance is maintained throughout the first phase, that is, once we sow the seeds or once we carry out the vegetative propagation. In case of seed sowing, generally the beds, which are referred to as seed beds or nurseries, are to be prepared wherein the soil is completely mixed up with organic matter as well as some parts of sand, so that the soil remains softer in texture, as you can see here. Now, this soil actually facilitates the germination of the seeds and helps them to develop into a productive seedlings. Generally, after sowing the seeds are covered with either the sand itself or sometimes even the organic manures, and then it is to be irrigated so that the soil remains moist and germination of the seeds is facilitated. Generally, it takes about 10 to 15 days for these seeds to germinate, and after germination, there is a necessity to thin out the seedlings so that the developmental pattern as well as the productivity of the seeds is facilitated. Generally, in the natural habitats, that is where it is seen, that is at alpine or subalpine altitudes, there it has been seen to show a survival pattern even under extremities of climatic conditions. That is, it can be low temperature around 0 degrees Celsius, sometimes even dropping below 0 degrees, or as high as 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. The adaptability of the plant in turn reflects that in temperate areas it is able to not only produce what we cultivate it for, but also survive for as long as we need. After the seedlings attain a height, usually from 9 to 12 inches, it is to be transplanted either into the beds, that is the field beds, or into the pots. However, here the preference is that in the field there should be proper distance between the rows as well as distance between the plants in a row, while as in a pot generally only one single seedling is to be planted. Again, you can see. Now, if in a pot or in the bed we plant more than one seedling together, it has been seen that directly affects not only the productivity but also the ornamental value. Primarily, this has been seen to not only affect the survival pattern of the plant but also affects the ornamental quality of the flowers that are produced. Generally, after transplantation either into the field or into the pots, it is to be monitored for minimum 15 to 20 days so that it adapts to that habitat, and after adaptability it shows a survival pattern which in turn reflects its ornamental qualities also. Generally, it has been seen that in the first month after transplantation, the bud formation begins, and that bud formation actually reflects that the plant has attained adaptability as well as a productive stage. Now, at this stage, generally there are two needs. One is to monitor the irrigation pattern. Again, you can see. Now, when we talk about monitoring irrigation pattern, essence is that we should not have much soaked beds or we should not have much drier beds. Primarily, this is because if we have drier beds in those areas, the plant does not show not only the variability in productivity but also in terms of quality. And in such cases, it has been seen that the production as well as survival gets hampered. Further, once we irrigate the plants, the bed as such should not become waterlogged, and if we find that the water is not getting drained, at that stage the water is to be pulled out or drained out at the corners of the bed, or the pots are to be cleaned so that the excessive quantities of water are thrown away. Generally, it has been seen that under normal field conditions, each of these beds or the pots is in need of irrigation at either weekly intervals depending upon the temperature, or sometimes even at fortnightly intervals. In field oriented cultivation as well as ornamentation, it has been seen that the plant actually adapts much better to those areas where it is actually grown under exposed conditions, that is, where the plant remains totally exposed throughout its life period. Again, you can see here. This exposure actually reflects that the plant has an adaptability to sunny conditions. However, in these areas, one has to monitor whether the bed itself actually is having irrigation, which in turn will properly maintain the plant as such, as well as facilitate the production of the flowers. Further, if we actually grow it in the pots, that is, wherein the pots are kept under exposed and sunny conditions, in that case also the irrigation is to be monitored in a way wherein the pots do not reflect waterlogging, or the pots actually are not in any way reflecting over dryness. Now, in such cases, one ordinarily sees that the foliage, that is the leaves, actually show drooping. That means they tend to bend downwards, and that bending in turn reflects that the plant is actually drying up. In such cases, it is necessary to maintain the irrigation pattern so that the soil remains moist, and that moistness in turn maintains not only the productivity but also the quality of the production. Generally, it has been seen that if we want to maintain this as a perennial plant, that means we want to cultivate this plant as a perennial field or pot oriented plant. In such cases, application of nutrients, that is inorganic nutrients, urea or NPK or sometimes DAP, is to be added to the bed itself, or if we want to add organic nutrients, we have to add cow dung manure or the ashes so that the soil remains moist and soft, and this soil in turn reflects that the productive potential of the plant as such is maintained for as long as we want. Generally, as you can see in the bed, the plants show productive potential as well as the density in terms of development within a span of 6 to 9 months, and that in turn actually necessitates that soil around each plant itself is dug out regularly so that whatever weeds are growing there or whatever compactness of the soil is developed there, that is to be loosened up, and that loosening in turn reflects that we are trying to maintain the productive potential as well as the quality of the ornamentals or the flowers. Again, you can see that the beds are dug up, loosened, and that in turn reflects that the survival pattern as well as the productive quality and quantity of the plant is improving. Here, generally, if this plant is to be maintained as a pot ornamental, in such cases the tendency is that plants, if irrigated much too irregularly, it shows much taller height, and that taller height in turn tends to show bending pattern. Again, you can see in some pots that the plant is bending, that is because of the excessive height gaining. Therefore, it is necessary that in pots one should actually keep it lesser irrigated so that the excessive irrigation or addition of water does not in any way prolong or elongate the plants much more than they normally adapt to the pots. Further, in the field also, if the irrigation is carried out at a higher speed or at much faster speed, it has been seen that that also tends to elongate the length of the plant, which in turn tends to show bending when the flowers are at the peak of ornamentation. In such cases, again, there is a need that the irrigation pattern is to be monitored regularly so that that irrigation in turn actually helps us to facilitate survival for longer duration as well as maintain the quality production. Then, once the plant reaches the peak of development, that is, wherein each branch is healthy in terms of its development, and at the apex of each branch we have wonderful development of the flowers, there is also a need to try to propagate them vegetatively. Now, in this case, there are two ways of propagation. One is actually referred to cuttings, and second is referred to as layering. Now, when we talk about cutting, again you can see what is done is that mature branches which are slightly harder in texture are cut off from the plant, and they are planted into the nursery beds or sometimes even pots at an inclined angle so that they actually are able to set in the roots. Again, you can see here wherein fresh branches which are slightly hardened up are cut off from the main axis of the productive plant, and then these branches in turn are planted in the nursery beds or sometimes into larger pots so that they are actually able to adapt and help or facilitate the vegetative propagation. But here the needs are, number one, that we should actually try to cut off those plants which are actually older. That means they must have attained an age of 9 to 12 months, number one. Number two, it is important that the cuttings are carried out in the months wherein the temperature is not much higher and the soil is not much drier. Usually, this is done in the month of May or in the month of September, primarily because these 2 months are wet months as well as in terms of temperature have lower. Now, that in turn facilitates the vegetative propagation. This propagation essentially is to be carried out when we are able to have nursery in partial shady conditions or can keep these pots or these beds in shade wherein the developmental pattern of the vegetative propagule is actually facilitated. It has been seen that usually about 10 to 15 days are taken by this cutting to give rise to a new healthy plant which actually can ultimately result in a productive ornamental plant. However, in case we keep it continuously exposed to sunny conditions, it has been seen that there the survival pattern is much more lesser than the survival pattern in those areas where we propagate it vegetatively in shady conditions. Second important method is through layering. Layering actually refers to using the branches of a healthy plant and trying to create an incision on the lower side. Again, you can see here an incision is created on the lower side with the help of a blade or a knife, and then that incised part of the branch is immersed in the soil but in the vicinity of the parental plant. Again, you can see here what is done is that a selected branch is incised with the help of a knife or a blade, and then the lower part where the incision has been created is immersed in the soil and covered on the top by soil also. It actually is important because the parental plant actually facilitates not only the survival of the cut branch or incised branch, but also provides whatever it needs in the form of nutrients as well as in the form of water or it sometimes also facilitates the evaporative as well as absorptive mechanism operative in that cutting. Usually, this layering mechanism has been seen much more suitable and much more productive in comparison to what is obtained or what is the result of the cuttings. In this case also, these layerings ought to be monitored for a minimum period of 15 to 20 days, so that during this layering we find not only does the branch survive as such, but if cut off from the parental plant, it is able to give rise to a healthy vegetative progeny, which in turn becomes a productive ornamental. Usually, this layering technique has been seen to be much more commercially useful, primarily because it does not actually deplete our parental plants from the flowers or from the branches, so that not only their quality but also their productive potential is maintained for as long as one wants. Again, you can see here parental plant is surviving and the layering progeny that has been developed is also surviving. It has been seen that in case of layering, again the method of using those soils which are rich in organic matter or which are having some sort of sandy textured soil actually facilitates much better survival pattern than those soils which are poorer in nutrients as well as have a hard texture. In this case, however, the essence is that at the stage of cutting or at the stage of layering, one must not add any organic nutrients to the top layer of the soil, because that addition has been seen to deplete not only the plant survival pattern but also sometimes affects the productive quality of the plant. Now, in this case, it has been seen that sometimes same plant, if it has denser branches, that is, it has more than the desired number of branches, one can actually layer sometimes 5, sometimes more than that branches and give rise to, in the addition to the parental plant, about 5 to 10 young vegetatively propagated or layered seedlings. But once these seedlings attain health, that is, they develop their own roots, they can then be cut off from the parental plant and then planted as such either into the field, that is ornamental beds, or sometimes even in the pots. Further, if this layering is carried out in the month of September, that is prior to winter, in those cases it is necessary to try to plant these layered populations into pots, so that during winter they are actually kept under controlled conditions and their survival does not get hampered in the exposed or in the cooler climatic conditions of the open fields or open lawns. Once such propagation methods have been standardized, that is either through cutting or through layering, these seedlings have been seen to attain a productive potential within a span of 1 or 2 years, and then they in turn can be used for cuttings as well as layerings. However, if a plant is not continuously exposed to cutting and layering, it becomes so dense in terms of number of branches as well as number of roots that it develops, that it actually needs and necessitates that it should be dug out from the beds or the pots in which it has been planted, as you can see here, and then after digging out, it is to be cut off into smaller segments, that is, wherein the root portion is cut off along with a few aerial parts, so that we are trying to actually cut the root segments into progenial parts, and each of these parts in turn can be used as a seedling for either bed plantation or for pot plantation. Generally, such practices are followed by those who do not have a direct concept of commercial cultivation of such ornamentals, but those who cultivate these plants commercially, they try to actually use this concept almost every year, so that one seedling in turn can actually result in not only producing ornamentals for that particular season, but they can be used for commercial production as well as maintenance of what is actually a commercial source of income. Generally, such methods of propagation have been seen never in any way affecting not only the quality but also the quantity of production. Generally speaking, it is a concept that if we use the parental plant continuously for vegetative propagation, that may affect the productive potential, but in this plant, it has been seen that much faster the vegetative propagation of cuttings or layering is carried out, much better productive potential as well as the quality is maintained in that plant. However, here the fundamental governance that should be monitored is that if we use the same plant for cutting or layering, we should not actually depend on the same plant for collection of the seeds. This is primarily because one plant is able to produce one type of propagule. that can be either a seed, that is the sexual propagule, or that can be a graft or a vegetative propagule, which is actually a means of vegetative propagation. Now, in commercial cultivation, generally they try to divide the plants into two groups. One, wherein they collect the seeds, that means they are using it for sexual propagation, and second, wherein they use the cuttings or the layering, that automatically means they are referring to vegetative propagation. In both these cases, the habitat maintenance is essentially important so that not only does the plant survive, but that survival in turn facilitates the producer to convert an important ornamental plant as a commercial source of income. Further, whosoever tries to domesticate and cultivate these, he should actually try to maintain the beds, not only in their fertile condition, but also try to see whether there is any need and necessity of spacing the plants or cutting the excessive branchlets and using the methods of layering. At present, whosoever tries to cultivate them commercially, he has a tendency to depend more on field-oriented cultivation than on pot-oriented cultivation, primarily because fields have much better space than the pots have, and fields can be used for cutting as well as layering, whereas pots can only be used for ornamental purposes. Those who want to use this plant as a source of commercial income should first of all standardize techniques for field-oriented cultivation, and then as a substitute use the pot cultivation of this plant. I hope that whosoever is listening to this will try to develop a proper protocol for commercial production as well as commercial cultivation of this particular ornamental. Thank you.